everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here at Re-Ritten Vintage Homestead. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I want to do a book review of this. It's called, can you see? I hope there's a shadow on it. It's called Almost Amish, One Woman's Quest for a Slower, Simpler, More Sustainable Life. And it's by Nancy Sleeth. And I have seen this book advertised in Mary Jane's Farm for a long time, and I always thought, I would really like to read that. I bet it's something I would enjoy. And I found it at the thrift store. And so it's interesting, and I thought we would talk about it. Are you almost Amish? So I'm just going to read the back cover for you here so that you can get an idea of what the book is about. And it says, something is wrong, terribly wrong, about the way we spend our time. We tweet while we work, we text while we drive, and basically stare at our computer screens until we fall into bed at night. We are plugged in 24/7. And it's not just us, our kids spend 100 times more hours staring at a screen each week than they do playing outside. That's the truth, isn't it? And we wonder why so many children are being treated for ADHD, depression, and obesity-related ailments. It's time to simplify our lives, to slow down, to make faith and family the focal point, and recapture the lost art of simple living. And what group has kept simplicity, family, and faith at the center of all they say and do better than the Amish? Building on the core principles of Amish life, Nancy Sleeth explains how making conscious choices to limit, and in some cases eliminate, technology's hold on our lives and get back to the basics can help us lead calmer, more focused, less harried lives, resulting in stronger, deeper relationships with our families, friends, and God. So, first of all, let's talk about how she says she got here. I love all the old books and the sticker books and coloring books. Cookbooks. Look at these. Molly helps mother. My thank you book. Caleb's cookies. So Nancy had written several books about her experience, and her husband had written several books about his experiences, and they were doing quite well. And Nancy was on the speaking circuit when basically after her talk, someone came up to her and said, "So are you almost Amish or what?" And she's like, "What do you mean am I almost Amish? Am I wearing a bonnet? I don't get what you mean." And then she started thinking about it, and she takes the book and divides it into different sections like home, travel, health, all of these different things, and talks about how her family deals with those things and how the Amish deal with those things. And she came to find out that they were actually more alike than they were different. But it wasn't always this way. Nancy's husband was a prestigious doctor, and she was a homemaker for many years. She didn't need to work, apparently, for financial reasons, and they were quite well off. But they started having things happen in their lives that made them question their priorities. Now, one of those were on a vacation, Nancy's brother accidentally drowned in front of her children, and that was very traumatic. So that makes you rethink your priorities, what's important and what's not. Her husband was dealing with trauma from being a doctor. He had a lot of women who were cancer patients and who were very sick. And, you know, he would relate to his wife how hard it was to have to go tell the husband that they've done all they can do and it was just a matter of time. And that would be traumatic. Anytime things like, you know, just like what happened to me, hey, you have 2 years to live, you start thinking about what's important and what do I want to do now? And if I'm going to continue to live, how do I want my life to be from this point forward? So it's very understandable why they started changing their priorities and deciding that they wanted to spend more time together, more of their money on things that really mattered, more of their time on things that really mattered, and more time together as a family, setting examples for their children. One thing that seemed, I would have never come up with this. I wouldn't have. I didn't. Was she and her husband were talking. And you know how sometimes you ask each other questions like, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite TV show? And just whatever. And someone asked the other, what is the biggest problem facing the world today? And I would love to hear what you guys come up with, what you think. What is the biggest problem facing the world today? Well, their answer to each other, they both agreed, was the world was dying. So they looked at the planet, and they believe in environmental change such as global, they don't call it global warming anymore, do they? But basically that's what they felt was the biggest problem, was people are killing the world. And then they said it's you can't worry about the conflicts that we're having with other countries or the poisons that we're putting in foods and children in low self-esteem and suicide rates and, you know, things like that, people coming over our border. If you're not going to have a planet, you know, it won't matter, will it? So that's where they decided they wanted to focus on, was the environmental things that maybe they were wasting their money on, wasting their time on, that they could cut back on. And yeah, basically I was told, you know, a while back in November, you have 2 years and we're going to do everything we can with oral chemo medicine and maybe a bone marrow transplant to, you know, extend your life. And saving the planet was the last thing on my mind. But that being said, I did start thinking about how I was living my life and worrying about things that were so unnecessary and really didn't matter, and getting angry at things that were just ridiculous or aggravated at people. You know, all of those things really don't matter if you just take a minute and calm down and think about it. And I started thinking about what I enjoyed. And, you know, being outdoors is what I enjoy. Working with my hands is what I enjoy. In one of my videos, I said a lot of people think, oh my gosh, I haven't gone to Hawaii. I always wanted to go to Hawaii. I wasn't thinking about things I haven't done. I was thinking about the things that I have done that I would miss, like the smell of coffee and hugging my grandchildren and seeing them grow up and laughing with my children, things like that. And we're all different. But Nancy and her husband decided they wanted to start with the environmental things, and they started making small changes in their lives. Look at the little Amish outfits for little boys. Aren't they adorable? And here's some little dresses for the little girls. little shirts and the pants. The first place they looked, which is the most logical place, was their home. And they began looking at each room, each closet, each dresser drawer, each pantry cupboard, and saying, is there something in here that we purchased that we could do without? To simplify our life, to make cleaning easier, to make organization easier, to make our carbon footprint less. Are there things that we can get rid of? So she started cleaning out those closets and donating clothes and donating food to the food bank that she knew they weren't going to eat, that they just had bought on a whim. She cleaned out her drawers and got everything organized and got rid of trash, things that she could recycle, and, you know, some things that she couldn't. But that's where they started, was decluttering, to simplify your life. It can be so overwhelming, as we all know, when you feel like you're buried in things. You're not able to keep them clean like you would like to, especially if you have to work outside of the home or you have little children. You can't always keep things as clean as you would like. And if you have a lot of bric-a-brac around, which I do, I have a lot of dishes. I love dishes, glassware. But you have to surround yourself with things you love. So just try that tonight. Sit on the couch, sit in your chair, look around your living room, look around your kitchen and say, do I love that? Do I love that that's up there? Or is it just filling a space? You know, did I just buy that because I needed something to fill that space there? Is there someone that could be using it right now and you're not? Those are different things that Nancy suggested. And when we downsized, that was one of the big things that we did. If I didn't love it, it didn't come. If it was just to fill a space, it was donated or sold. And I couldn't believe how much stuff I had that I purchased just to fill a space. I didn't love it. My kids didn't make it. My grandkids didn't paint it for me. Nothing like that. It was just so that the room didn't look bare. And decorations for the holidays and things. I mean, how many pumpkins do you need, right? So start there. If you declutter and you get organized, you can help other people out. You can make a little extra money and, stay a little saner. So that's where she started. Her second tip for the home was to make the kitchen the heart of your home. And as homesteaders, if you consider yourself a homesteader, you already do that, like I do. You like to make your meals, you like to bake, you like to cook, you like to get things from your garden, you like to can, you like to dehydrate, and you like to draw people into what you're doing in the kitchen. So make it comfortable, make it organized, make it clean, and use up what you have. And so then the third thing was to actually invest in quality. And this isn't something that I've been known for, but her example was there was a cupboard or something that both she and her husband really liked at an antique store that was very, very expensive. But they needed a cupboard, or they wanted a cupboard. And so they decided to go ahead and invest in that cupboard, and they would have it for the rest of their lives. And that makes sense. If there's something that you really, really need, a lawnmower, a tiller, anything like that, furniture, and you want it to last, I typically look at the price tag. But it doesn't make sense to look at the price tag if you're going to have to replace it shortly after. So invest in quality. Get rid of the clutter and make the kitchen the heart of your home. Make your own peanut butter. We're all going to agree with Nancy on technology. We all use technology entirely too much. I'm including myself. But, I'm older. I'm older. And so I can take it or leave it, really. Who I feel for are younger people who social media is a comparison kind of thing. it can be a bullying thing. It can make you feel terrible about yourself or about the life that you have in comparison to other people who are actually living a fantasy life and putting it on social media. So, the Amish, they really don't use technology like computers and phones, and now they go other places where they can use a phone. They don't have them in their house. And I really don't know about farming and that kind of thing anymore, if they have let some technology seep in there where before everything was done by hand. But it plays a very minimal role in their lives, where it plays the majority, predominant part of our lives. So we all agree with that, right? So take the time to turn your TV off this evening and go sit outside. Exercise. Spend time with your family. Play a game. Go for a walk. Encourage your young people to read, to spend time with you, to go for a walk with you, to not compare themselves to others. Technology should be used for good, not for harm. And limit your use of it. Limit your time on social media. Look at this row of spices. Look how far it goes. Cinnamon sticks, salts. Now, as Nancy and her husband were changing their lifestyle, cutting back on social media, leaving their phones at home, decluttering, getting organized, donating, buying less, they had a bit of a religious conversion. There's a cute little story in there how her husband was at a hotel for a conference, I believe, and there was a Gideon's Bible. You know how they sometimes leave those in the dresser drawer? He didn't have a Bible, so he stole it. Now, stealing is never good, okay? And that is not the Amish way. But in this case, it was kind of funny. And they started really believing in biblical principles, and especially when it came to finances. And Nancy was able to find over and over in the Bible different scriptures about how your money belongs to God, and the way you spend it should be to honor God. So just a couple examples. Proverbs 3:9 is honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part of everything you produce. Guard against greed. Luke 12:15. Jesus said, beware, guard against every kind of greed. Life is not measured by how much you own. About being prudent. Don't begin until you count the cost. For who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there is enough money to finish it? That's Luke 14:28. And don't become a slave to debt. Just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is the servant to the lender. And that's Proverbs 22:7. So that, those are very good verses, excellent advice. So, she said that the Amish, they follow biblical principles as far as their finances. They save their money. They work hard. The work that they do, the money they save, and the money that they spend is all to glorify God. They don't have spending problems. They don't go out and buy things because they're bored. They don't buy more than they need. They buy just enough. And so that's something we all want to strive to do too, is try to stay out of debt the best that we can. Try to save money the best that we can. It's not always easy, but do your best and try to honor God with your finances. And look at all of these sprinkles for your cookies. Every kind of sprinkle you could think of. Every holiday. The chapter on nature was written for me. Basically, Nancy talks about we all need food, right? And we all want to save money. So growing your own food is one of the easiest and best ways that you can save money, eat healthier. But not only that, if you look at the bigger picture, you can help other people. You can grow food for relatives, grow food for your neighbors, start a community garden. So food and nature are the center of who we are. And if we work hard and we try to grow a few things, we can really help our health and build a community. And also honor God, because where do you see God the most? You know, I see him when I'm outdoors, when I'm in my garden, when I'm looking at the trees and the stars and the sun and the flowers. And in Marshall's eyes, you know, look out in nature and you'll really, really find peace. Nancy talks about going for walks, going for picnics, playing outside, getting fresh air, and we all should be striving to do that. But we have to admit things are a little more difficult these days than they used to be, right? You can't just send your children outside anymore and say, go play. Things are more dangerous now for the little ones than they were when we were growing up, if you're my age. So, you know, be cautious, be careful, but do try to spend some time outdoors every day if you can. Grow some food if you can. Spend some time with nature and with animals. And then she also talks about picking up litter, because you can't live in the Garden of Eden if there's trash on the ground. I agree with that as well. But I would suggest that you use one of those long sticks that picks up trash and you wear gloves. There's so much meanness out there anymore. You know, I've read several articles where people have picked up trash and it had fentanyl on it. And, you know, they almost lost their lives. It could have, in my case, I can't pick up trash anymore. I used to out in the woods down the street. But, I can't anymore because of the germs. It might, you know, be really detrimental to me. But if you're healthy and if you have gloves and if you're able to pick up some trash, please do. It helps everybody. So, you know, the Amish have their own communities and they basically stick to themselves. But they do socialize with the English, But they have created their own world that reflects their values. And Nancy suggests that that's what you should do as well. So, of course, that means simplifying, like we already spoke about. It means supporting local farmers, people in your community who are really, really working hard to give you fresh produce, fresh meat without additives, preservatives, that kind of thing. Beautiful flowers for your home. Try to support those people so they can keep going and you can help build that community. Have a church family, people you can rely on when you need someone to talk to, a group that can help you through hard times and you can help them too. So you don't want to be a loner out there by yourself. Try to build your own community. There's a chapter devoted to security, but it's not the kind of security you would think of, like how to protect yourself. It's more like I think she should have named it comfort, actually, instead of security. I don't even know if that's right, because it talks about family traditions and spending time with generations that we don't do anymore. You know, grandma, grandpa, great-grandma, great-grandpa, cousins, family, neighbors. She encourages you to get to know your neighbors, do things for your neighbors, spend time with your neighbors. Don't let schools run your life or your children. And that is good advice too. So, she talks about how Amish children go to school to learn, not to help them make decisions as far as politics, gender identity, things like that. They go to learn their lessons and then they come home. It's the parents' job to teach those other things. And so many kids are so involved in so many things, different sports, dance lessons, things like that, that they're overextended and they're not doing as well in school, or they're stressed, or they're tired. So that's something she suggests that you think about. Look at your children. Are they exhausted? Are they stressed out? Do you have them in too many things? Are you paying for things you can't afford? Look at those things. And if you want more security as a family, cut back on a few things. She talks about setting a good example for your children in your marriage. And that's something, we should all strive to do. And it's really important that kids feel connected, to family members, to cousins, to aunts, to uncles. So even if you have people step in to take those roles for your children, it'll mean a lot. And it does give them security and more self-confidence as they're growing up. Last few chapters are based on community, family, and faith. And some of it is, had been basically addressed in the previous chapters. Why it's important, how we all need each other, how we help each other reach goals, how you can reduce your carbon footprint by sharing and bartering and doing things within your community and buying local, cutting back on what you need, your faith, exercising your faith, spending time with God, and praying for things and not worrying. The most repeated verse, 2 words in the Bible are fear not. Fear not, said over and over and over again. So she encourages you to take those fears to God. Do what you can. You have to do your own due diligence, but give it to God and give him time to let things work out. I found out firsthand about the Amish lifestyle with my family member, Marshall Dillon. He came from an Amish family not too far from where we live. We have an Amish community that we visit quite often. And his name was actually Buddy Yoder. And his brother, Reggie, was actually named Max Yoder. And we picked them up from Amish Farm. And, my opinion, I enjoy going to the Amish community. I love their cooking. And, it's easy to romanticize about their way of life. Things seem so simple. They seem so close to their families and to their communities and to their faith. But I think it really is a romantic notion that I have, and probably not real life. They work very, very hard. And everybody works. Even the very little ones are out in the garden working. I mean, it's work. And, it's very admirable, but it is hard work. So it's not as romantic as what I, tend to make it be. I also think the Amish aren't as kind to their animals as, maybe they should be. I was speaking to a veterinarian who said that, who takes care of the animals for the Amish in that community. And he said that, they see them as beasts that were given to them by God for work. Dogs like Marshall, those are to make money. Those are income. They're not in the house, They're not, actually they're usually out in the garage or in the shed. They're just money makers, They're not socialized. They don't get them out and socialize them like they should with other people and with little children and other animals. So sometimes that part I'm not so keen on. So I mean, no, there's no group that's 100% absolutely fabulous. And so I don't want to idolize them. But I do enjoy their cooking and their recipes, and I do romanticize about them, and I do enjoy the simple living aspect of it. And I think as I went through this book and I was checking things off, I could say that I'm almost Amish too. And you probably could say that you are too, except we're not as extreme maybe in the way that we dress and our way of thinking. So overall, I would give this book from a 1 to 10, I would give it maybe a 6. And let me tell you why. A lot of the stuff we already know, right? Common sense dictates we already know. Especially people like us who are into the homesteading way of life. We're reading about this stuff all the time. So we're already trying to learn how to save money, and we're already trying to learn how to make the kitchen the heart of our home and less technology. And we're already really invested in that and decluttering. And so a lot of it is not new information, but she does weave a very nice story about her faith in there, biblical principles, and how their life changed. It can be, now this is the reason I didn't give it an 8 or 9. Okay. I think it was a little pretentious. So as she's talking about, we're almost Amish, or we got compared to the Amish, and we're doing this for the planet and that for the planet. Some of the things that they do for the planet, other people couldn't do because they don't have the means that they do financially. Okay. And she brings up quite a bit in the book about how much money they have, how much money, how smart her children are, how they were still able to go to the top schools and how successful they are. And, after a while it's like, okay, I think you're maybe not getting the audience that's going to be reading this book. So just to give you some examples, she talks about how they lived in a New England town. It was a beautiful home with beautiful things. They sailed in the summer and they skied in the winter. And her husband called the neighbors Trustfundians. Now that is labeling people. You don't know if they, have what they have because they have a trust fund or because they worked hard, like apparently your husband did. So, I didn't really like that part of it. She talked about little changes adding up. They moved to a house with the same footprint of their old garage. Well, that sounds like, wow, you guys really downsized. But then her husband says, hey, let's remember it's a doctor-sized garage. So did they really downsize? I don't know. It's easy to say, hey, everybody, you need to, grow your own food. And no, here's a better example. You guys, we need to get electric cars because of our carbon footprint. We need to go to electric cars. But in the meantime, I'm going to jump on a private jet and go here and go there. So it's for thee and not for me. And so I feel like some of this book was a little snobby, pretentious, and she was missing her audience sometimes. But, you might enjoy it. I would give it a go. If you come across it at a thrift store like I did, give it a go. You guys, I hope you enjoyed this book review. I did another book review too. I'm going to link it below. Quite a while ago about Cole Summers. He was a homeschooled young man who taught himself business by watching YouTube videos and created quite a little empire before he passed away. And so I would love to do another book review very soon. Hope you guys are having a great week. You're working hard and enjoying the summer, and I'll see you next time.